My name is Caitlin. I'm a regular company employee who has been married for 1 year and is currently pregnant with my first child. I'm on maternity leave now, so I spend most of my time at home. However, there are a few people who don't seem to understand that I'm taking this time off to have a baby. To be honest, I'm starting to feel that going to work is better. Where I live is about a 20 minutes drive from my parents' house, where my brother and his wife live. They constantly contact me, asking for help with this and that, and sometimes even come over unannounced. My brother Sean has always relied on others to take care of things for him, so he thinks that both our parents and I are there for his convenience. His wife Natalie has the same mindset, thinking that the world revolves around her. This has been a source of stress for me. Hey sis, is it okay for me to come over there now? Actually, I'm already on my way. What? Right now? Isn't that where you are? I have a doctor's appointment today, so I will be leaving the house soon. Seriously? Well, if you could just leave the key in the mailbox, that's fine. I can't. I'm already on my way. At least let me have a cup of coffee or something. I will make it myself and drink it myself. If that's the case, do it at your place. You don't have to come all the way to our house to do that. But my mother-in-law is cleaning the house today, and I felt like I had to help out. I don't want to do that, so I left the house. But I heard that you don't do anything to help out around the house. Well, that's because it's their house. You say that, but you sure seem to make yourself very comfortable there. Besides, if I go to your place, I can watch YouTube and other things on a big TV. I think that's the real reason you want to come over to our place. Bingo! I have to kill time until my night shift starts, so let me stay there until then. Oh, and I have food provided at work, so don't worry about dinner. Sorry, but neither my husband nor I will be there, so could you not come over today? Why not? A checkup only takes an hour, right? After that, I will do some shopping, then stop by my parents' place. Oh, then could you clean the house instead of me? My mother-in-law says mean things like she won't clean our room. I'd be happy if you could handle the mother-in-law and daughter-in-law problem. At least clean your own room, for God's sake. My mother cleans the kitchen, living room, bathroom, and toilet that you also use. If you're going to visit, you might as well clean. You are petty, aren't you? It's not about being petty. You won't let me into your house and you won't clean my room? Is it fun to bully your sister-in-law like that? Forget it. It's super early, but I will go to work and kill time there. I will also talk to Sean about this. I was really tired of my sister-in-law, who only pushed her own demands without caring about our situation like this. And from here on, it was also tiring. My younger brother was head over heels in love with Natalie, so if she complains even a bit about me, he would call me immediately. This was their routine. And as expected, I got multiple calls from my brother while I was getting ready to go to the checkup after chatting with Natalie. I ignored the calls because hearing his voice, which was so loud that I couldn't understand what he was saying, was stressful and not good for my mental health. Messages between Caitlin and Sean.
Hey sis, Natalie came crying to me again. Can't you be a little kinder to her?
I don't know what she said to you, but I just told her that I have plans and can't let her into the house.
Even if you have plans, couldn't you just leave her the key and tell her to relax at home while you are out?
I can't do that when neither my husband nor I are home.
But Natalie's family. Are you worried that she would do something while you are not there?
Actually, she was snooping around the house the last time I left for a moment.
She said that it was just out of curiosity.
Opening and searching through all the rooms and even the closet while I was away is not something that can be easily dismissed as just curiosity. Fortunately, I came back quickly and nothing happened.
Why are you being so petty when she's family? Do you have something to hide?
I just don't want my private space trampled on. You didn't even like it when Mom cleaned your room.
That's a different story. Anyway, Natalie is working the night shift even though she is physically weak. Let her rest and relax before her shift.
If she wants to rest and relax, she should do so in her house, not ours. I hear you've basically taken over the second floor of our parents' house.
Sometimes it's hard to relax in your parents-in-law's house.
And it's not at sister-in-law's house?
Besides, our house is old, and our appliances aren't the latest. Your house has the latest appliances, and it's new and nice, so Natalie feels comfortable there.
It's our house, not hers. And by the way, I'm curious, what do you mean by Natalie being physically weak? This is news to me.
She was hospitalized and had surgery in Italy for about 6 months before we got married. She looks healthy now, but she still goes for checkups and sometimes hospital stays.
Really? She looks so healthy.
She told me when I proposed to her crying. There are doctors who can cure her, but they are only available overseas. So before we got married, she was desperate to get better and become a healthy bride. So she made an appointment with an Italian doctor and managed to have surgery.
I did not know that.
Natalie has gone through more pain than anyone else, so I want her to be happy more than anyone else. So please be kind to her, sis. She always says she's happy to have a sister since she's an only child. So even if she's a little demanding, please listen to her as her big sister. You're free now anyway.
Listen, both you and Natalie seem to have some misunderstanding, but I'm not free because I'm on maternity leave. I'm preparing to have this baby, doing housework, and I have a lot of things to do, like studying for certain certifications.
So what?
So what I mean is that I have things to do, and I don't want to be dismissed with just the word free.
We both work though.
So what? You want me to indulge your whims because you both work? You never even listen to my requests when I need help though.
I do listen.
You didn't even bother to help when I asked you to take our mother to the hospital when she hurt her leg.
That's because we were both busy with work.
You were just lazing around at home when I asked you.
Taking a break to relax is also a duty as a working adult.
If you only care about yourself like that, no one will help you when you really need help, you know.
But Natalie works hard for you.
What are you talking about?
She goes to your place to listen to your request. How could you refuse her when she's done all those things for you?
What? What are you talking about?
I'm running out of break time, so I will stop here. But please take better care of Natalie from now on. Unlike you, we are living with our parents, so you should have a little gratitude.
Never once has Natalie listened to my request. I even gave Sean and Natalie a decent gift when they got married, but they didn't even congratulate me or give me a gift when I got married. All I ever received from my younger brother and his wife are one-sided demands or complaints. I don't even remember her taking care of me. I knew she was probably saying things to Sean to make me the bad guy, but I never imagined that this would become such a big deal. 1 month later.
Hey, answer the phone already. You probably gave Natalie another unreasonable request. You never listen to any of her requests, but you always burden her with yours.
What are you talking about?
Don't play dumb. You left your baby with Natalie because you haven't fully recovered from giving birth. How could you leave your baby with someone else while you stay at home all cozy? Isn't taking care of your baby your responsibility as a parent?
Wait, what? I can't follow the conversation.
It's ridiculous to burden Natalie with your baby for a whole week. Taking care of your own child is your responsibility as a parent.
Well, but my due date is next week.
What? Next week? Didn't you have the baby last week?
I'm sorry, I can't follow you. What do you mean by leaving my baby with Natalie?
Natalie said she's going to take care of your baby while you recover because our house isn't safe for a baby.
I would never do that. Even if I was really in bad shape after giving birth, I have a husband, and my parents would have known about the baby. Why would I ask my brother's wife for help instead of asking my husband or parents?
Then what's this? Natalie just sent me this picture. She said that this is yours and that she's taking care of her now.
Hey, when was this photo taken?
When? It was just sent earlier, so it must be today.
Did you zoom in on the TV in the background?
TV?
There's news playing in the background, but the female announcer, they should have been replaced by someone else 2 years ago.
Huh? What do you mean? 2 years ago? That's around the time when Natalie and I got married, and she was supposed to be hospitalized in Italy.
I don't really know, but just stating the fact. I haven't given birth yet, haven't entrusted my child to Natalie, and I haven't even been in contact with her for the past month.
You're joking, right? Then where's Natalie?
Why don't you ask her yourself? I don't know why she's lying, but please don't get me involved. I'm about to have this baby, and I don't want to be stressed by this. Caitlin and Natalie's messages. Why won't you understand and help me out? You are just staying bored at home today, right? At least answer the phone. I told Sean too, but don't get me involved in whatever happened. Everything came to light because of you. What came to light? All of it. All I know is that you lied to Sean and left the house for a week. And that the photo of you holding the baby is at least 2 years old. Why did you tell Sean about that? I have been hiding it so well until now. Hiding it well? Is that baby actually yours? That's right. When Sean proposed to me, I was already pregnant, so I pretended to have surgery and be hospitalized overseas to secretly give birth. If you knew you were pregnant, why didn't you tell Sean? Why didn't you even think of secretly giving birth and not telling him? Wait, could it be that the child is not his? That's right. It's a child I had with a man I was seeing at the same time as Sean. He is a wealthy man who was undergoing infertility treatment with his wife, but they couldn't have children, so they became the child's adoptive parents. But I also visit the child occasionally to see how much she has grown. Are you kidding me? We had kept it as a secret between him and me. Now that it's out, his wife will find out too. We have been pretending that his subordinate died in a traffic accident and left behind that child. Oh wow, you even lied about that. Wait a minute. I don't even know what's true and what's not anymore. Is it also a lie that you work night shift? That's also a lie to go on dates with him and to see my daughter. I get money every month as hush money for our infidelity, and I give it to Sean as my night shift salary. What about taking care of my baby for a week? He had a long vacation, so we planned to go on a trip. He was supposed to be on a business trip, and I lied that I was taking care of your baby, and we went on a trip overseas. When we came back yesterday, Sean called over and over. He said he went to my parents' place and found out that I had lied. Wow, for a week, huh? I had a good relationship with my wealthy man, but it all went down the drain because you weren't attentive enough. I see. I'm finally starting to understand. You were cheating even before you married Sean, had a child with your affair partner, lied about having surgery, and being hospitalized because of your pregnancy. and even made the child your affair partner's adopted child and continued the affair. And now your lies has been exposed. Why are you so calm? This could turn into a hellish situation. I'm just confirming the fact. Whether my brother gets divorced or the other party's wife gets divorced, they will demand compensation. We need to use this conversation as evidence. Compensation? I'm not on my brother's side, but if the other man's wife asks me anything, I will tell her everything I know. Look, I'm sorry, please. His wife is from a good family, and if she finds out, her parents will hire a top-notch lawyer, and I will be asked for a huge amount of compensation. You are my sister-in-law, and you're on my side, right? Objectively looking at this, I can't take your or my brother's side. You've caused me so much trouble. Plus, didn't you use me as a cover-up for your infidelity? I was really curious because my brother said something you listened to my request, but I understand now. You have been using me so that you can cheat. I admit that I used you and I apologize. I won't see him again and that's it. So please just help me talk to Sean. Please don't tell anyone else about this. Everything will be settled smoothly if you keep quiet. Do you seriously think it will be okay as long as I keep quiet? Sean is head over heels in love with me. So if I act a little cute, he will probably forgive me. And if I break up with the guy I was seeing, we won't get caught. Please, I'm begging you. Everyone will be happy if it's settled smoothly, right? I'm sorry, but I don't intend to meddle in this. But I don't intend to hide it either. So if anyone asks me anything, I will answer honestly. I have no intention of saying anything to my brother or trying to mediate. But the most important thing for me right now is this unborn baby, so I don't have time to worry about you. You're my sister-in-law and part of the family, so I'm important to you, right? Have you ever treated me as important? You know, only children are the ones who are loved unconditionally and whose selfishness is accepted. Since you're an adult, take responsibility for your actions. Well, I don't want to talk to you anymore, so goodbye. No, please, Caitlin. I will do whatever you need me to. Please help me. My betrayed younger brother, fueled by anger, divorced Natalie over her infidelity. He even demanded compensation from the man she cheated with, which eventually led his wife to find out. I'm not sure what happened to the man, but after the divorce, Sean was so shocked that he became sick and even quit his job. I heard that our father, who had had enough of his son doing nothing at home, sent him to a relative who runs a temple to straighten him out. Natalie was left with a large amount of compensation, and without the help of her parents, she was forced to take on debt and is now living to repay it. How did you like this video? If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. If you have any comments, please share them in the comments below. Thank you for watching until the end.
You mustn't go home today. What was waiting for me when I returned home? Not believing the words of my grandmother with dementia, who had a mysterious power.
Don't go back home.
Saying that, my grandmother tightly grasped my arm.
The child is in your belly. It's frightened. It's dangerous. Don't go back.
I had returned to my parents' home to announce my pregnancy. My family had celebrated, and it was time for me to return to my husband's home. That was when my grandmother made her plea. Grandma, what's wrong? My grandmother had advanced dementia and shouldn't have recognized me. I was perplexed as my grandmother, who always just gazed out into the garden, suddenly raised her voice. I'm sorry, Grandma. I'll come back again. Today was my wedding anniversary with my husband. I had been thinking about buying a cake to take home. I felt sorry for my grandmother, but I didn't have time to listen to her ramblings in her condition.
No, someone stop her, please.
I left my parents' home with a sense of guilt at my grandmother's desperate state. Later, I regretted it instantly. If I had believed my grandmother's words, I could have avoided such a frightening situation. The story goes back a little while. I'm just an ordinary housewife, married to Sam for 5 years. We had been trying to have a child since the beginning of our marriage, so this year I thought we could celebrate a wonderful 5th anniversary. However, things didn't go as smoothly as I had hoped. One of the problems was that we started fighting more often after the pregnancy was confirmed. Of course, my morning sickness and anxiety were also contributing factors. I was confused by the situation of having a life other than my own growing inside me, and I couldn't be sane about it. What's more, the problem was not only my nervousness, but also Sam's. At first, I thought he was feeling anxious and nervous about my pregnancy, as I had heard that men tend to feel that way in these situations. I wanted to face it with Sam, even if we clashed. Unfortunately, it seems that Sam didn't share my thoughts. He was more nervous about my role as a housewife than our child. Previously, he rarely complained about my housework. I thought that, being a somewhat careless person, he wouldn't mind if I slacked off a bit. However, since I became pregnant, he complained about me not being able to do chores smoothly.
Don't slack off. Just because you were pregnant.
He would complain about everything, like the seasoning being too strong or the laundry having wrinkles. I admit there are times when my husband is right, and I hadn't done things properly. However, it's frustrating to be criticized when he was never experienced morning sickness. Honestly, there are times when I'm not thorough enough, and not being cutting corners with household chores from time to time. I thought we worked so well together because we're both a bit sloppy with chores. If he had complained from the start, it would have been one thing. But why did he suddenly change his attitude now? And why does he only bring this up now that I'm pregnant? Is it really all my fault? I wonder how other pregnant women manage their lives without causing troubles. While I keep asking myself these questions, Sam doesn't seem to reflect on his behavior at all. To make matters worse, he's began going out to eat and coming home drunk more often. Maybe he's also worried about having his first child. And maybe he's sorting out things because he's been holding back from being intimate at night due to my pregnancy. I try to overlook my husband's behavior, but my stress level was undoubtedly increasing. And there was one more thing weighing heavily on my mind: telling my family about my pregnancy. I told my parents about it over the phone, but I still needed to tell them in person. However, I had distanced myself from my family for personal reasons and hadn't visited them in a long time. My parents, aunt, and grandmother lived there, with my grandfather having passed away over a decade ago. Although I get along well with my parents and aunt, I've never been particularly close to my grandmother. In fact, my grandmother has a strange ability that has caused me bitter memories since childhood. She has prophetic dreams about her blood relatives. She doesn't deliberately see the future like in anime or manga. Sometimes, she just suddenly has a prophetic dream. But for some reason, she can distinguish it from a regular dream. In reality, some relatives have succeeded in their business or avoided danger because of her dreams. When I was a child, I was fascinated by the fairy tale-like events I heard about, and I admired my grandmother for using her power to help people. But children can be cruel. And when I told my friends about it, I was immediately branded a liar. If she had such a useful power, why couldn't she save me? Of course, I now understand that my grandmother was not at fault, and that ultimately I was the one to blame. So, since then, I didn't know how to interact with my grandmother anymore. Over time, I became distant from my family and rarely visited home. Eventually, my grandmother developed dementia, and I was never able to apologize or explain myself to her. Now, on a happy occasion, I returned home to visit my family. I didn't want to feel guilty anymore, so I went to see my grandmother. When I arrived, my parents and aunt welcomed me warmly. But my grandmother just stared out the window, saying nothing. According to my aunt, she had been like this lately. "Hi, Grandma. I'm home." I spoke to my grandmother, but there was no response from her. After that, I updated my parents and aunt on my recent news, from my pregnancy to complaints about my husband, and trivial things. Recently, I had been at odds with Sam, so talking to someone like this gave me a sense of relief. I thought it was a good decision to come here. If I ever feel anxious again, coming back to my parents' house might be a good idea. And if I'm lucky, I might be able to see Grandma when she's conscious. We chatted and laughed, and before we knew it, time had flown by, and the sun was setting. Oops, it's already this late. Actually, today is my wedding anniversary, and I was planning to buy a cake on my way back to celebrate with my husband. If we take the time to have a proper conversation as a couple, maybe my husband's attitude will soften. Well, I have somewhere to stop by, so I'll be going soon. Then, just as my parents got up to see me off,
You can't leave.
during the time we were chatting, my grandmother, who had been staring at the garden in silence, suddenly spoke up. We fell silent together. My aunt asked her in a surprise,
What's wrong, Mom?
but my grandmother didn't say anything in return. It's not like my grandmother never talks at all, but she might have had a moment of consciousness. I can't say I'm not curious about what my grandmother said, but it's our wedding anniversary today, so I want to go home soon. When I tried to leave, my grandmother spoke up again.
No, the child is frightened of your husband.
Child? Husband? What on earth is she talking about? Apparently, when you have dementia, past memories can come back vividly. Maybe she's mistaken something. Or could it be that strange ability of hers? I had a bad feeling about it. Thoughts about that came to my mind, and I wanted to leave the place right away. The memory of being looked down upon as a liar and strange by everyone flashed back. I didn't want to get involved with my grandmother anymore. I said goodbye quickly and left my parents' house and returned home where Sam was already back from work. I forgot to buy a cake on my way back, and I was preoccupied with what my grandmother said. Anyway, I have to prepare dinner now. Hey Sam, I'm sorry. I went to my parents' house today. I'll make dinner right away. Then, my husband showed a different attitude than usual. Normally, he would sit at the table and watch TV until the meal was ready. But he came into the kitchen this time. Then he put his hands on my waist and tried to touch me. I was surprised by his sudden action. But honestly, I am happy that he sees me as a woman. But it's not possible now. The doctor told me not to engage in such activities during this time. Sam, I'm sorry, but it's not okay. Not now. I said that. But he didn't seem to want to leave me. Furthermore, he grabbed my arm and tried to move me from the kitchen to the bedroom. Until now, Sam had never forcefully grabbed my arm like this before. Suddenly, he felt like a stranger rather than my husband, and I was scared. I desperately tried to get away from my husband, but he still didn't back down. I couldn't do anything and found myself shouting for help. That was when it happened. Suddenly, the sound of the entrance opening could be heard, and someone came in.
What are you doing, Sam?
That was my father who pulled Sam away from me. My mother was beside him. Mom, Dad, why are you here? I asked the two of them.
Your grandmother told us.
The truth is this. Ever after I went home, it seemed that my grandmother had raised her voice many times at home.
The baby is in her belly is in danger. It's frightened of the husband. The husband is evil.
My aunt thought that my grandmother's words were clear, and that her consciousness was the clearest it had been in recent times.
Mom, maybe you had a prophetic dream?
My aunt told my parents and asked them to keep an eye on me.
You! What were you trying to do to my daughter?
My father yelled at Sam.
No, it's a misunderstanding. Shut up. Were you trying to harm your pregnant wife? Do you want a divorce? Divorce? No, please.
Sam said, bowing to my father. I considered defending Sam because he was only trying to invite me out, and the timing was bad. But when I thought about explaining it to my parents, my grandmother's words came to mind. The child is afraid of Sam. The child is in danger. As I thought about it one by one, dots began to connect in my head. Sam, show me your phone.
Huh?
Sam responded foolishly. Ignoring his confusion, my father took his phone and I thoroughly checked it.
Hey, what are you doing?
Sam tried to take the phone back from me, but my father held him down. And I found the answer I was looking for. It was a conversation history with his lover. Frankly, I had a vague sense that Sam was cheating. After 5 years of marriage, it wasn't strange for such things to happen. But I trusted that he would do his duty as a father when the child was born, and didn't pursue it deeply. So why did I bring up his infidelity at this timing? It was because I sensed his intentions in his actions since I became pregnant. His attitude towards things he didn't care about before became nitpicky, and he even tried to prevent me from taking a break from my housework. And he even tried to approach me in an inappropriate timing. I assumed that the safe birth of our child was inconvenient for him. I looked at his phone, assuming that his infidelity was connected to his inconvenience. The name of his lover was Tess, and their conversation history was nauseatingly lovey-dovey. In it, there was even a plan for the two of them to run away with my inheritance when my grandmother died. They were just ridiculous. And apparently, Tess tried to end the relationship when Sam told her about my pregnancy. At this point, it became clear what Sam was up to. Sam, were you trying to prevent me from having a child? The reason you constantly caused me excessive stress was for that, right?
What? I would never.
So that you wouldn't have to break up with that woman named Tess, right? Sam falls silent, seemingly realizing the truth of my words.
What? Did you try to harm not only Dana, but also the child in her womb? You bastard! What the hell were you thinking?
My father grabs Sam by the collar and shakes him. I never thought that. In our 5th year of marriage, I would discover my husband's despicable side in this way. But now that I know, things cannot continue as before. I glare at Sam with contempt and delivery my final words. I'm divorcing you. I cannot be with someone who cannot love the child. I don't care where you go, whether it's with Tess or anyone else. Of course, I'll be asking for compensation, so be prepared. I say this and leave with my parents, leaving my husband to hang his head in shame. Later on, I serve him divorce papers through a lawyer. As expected, he did not complain and accepted all of our terms. I seek compensation from both Sam and his lover Tess. Sam seems to have at least tried to get with Tess, but it seems that she had already lost interest in him. She paid me compensation in one lump sum and disappeared. As for what happened to my ex-husband after that, I have no idea. As long as he doesn't fall behind on his payments, I don't care about that man anymore. As for me, for now, I decide to return to my parents' house until my child is born. My baby is growing healthily inside me, and living with my parents is a huge relief. I express my gratitude to my grandmother for helping me and apologize for having kept her away due to my lack of strength. My grandmother is still gazing at the garden, as usual, affected by her dementia. I wonder if she understands me. Feeling a little disappointed, I murmur to myself, and then, "Sweetheart, your child will grow up healthy." There was my grandmother, smiling at me and looking into my eyes. It was a brief moment, but I was sure that my grandmother understood me. "Yeah, thank you, Grandma. I'll raise a healthy child. I love you." I take my grandmother's hand, which was looking towards the garden again, and feel the warmth of the sunset next to her.
When I returned home from my parents, I found my husband enjoys cheating in our house, but he didn't see my right hand was actually.
What? What is this?
After finishing the care for my parents who had been in a traffic accident, I hurried home, only to find something waiting for me at the entrance that was not my husband, who I had expected to be worried about me. It was a pair of red women's shoes, not mine, nor my mother-in-law's, but a design of youthful feminine high heels. Exhausted from the care, I collapsed at the entrance as if I had been struck with a blunt object to the back of my head by the shock. The situation continued to add insult for me, as I heard the voice of a man and a woman coming from the bathroom at the end of the hallway. The woman's moaning voice pierced my ears as it passed through the hallway to the entrance. In that moment, I remembered the days when I had been scolded and ridiculed by my husband, and one possibility crossed my mind. I couldn't believe it. I don't want to believe it. I was confused, but I tried to brace myself and nervously headed towards the bathroom. Would it become the worst story I could imagine? Or just a misunderstanding that would become a laughing matter later? I couldn't abandon my faint hope yet. As I arrived in front of the bathroom door, I heard the laughter of the man and woman inside. My heart beat so loudly that I couldn't believe it. I reached out my trembling hand to the door that separated us. My name is Margaret, and I am a housewife. My husband Henry and I met through a traditional arranged marriage, in which our parents introduced us. My father and his father knew each other from college, and they sympathized with each other's family businesses, so they became close friends. My husband's family business had been near bankruptcy in the past, but now it is doing well. My husband was to take over the family business, so he asked me to quit my job. Although I liked my job, I agreed to become a housewife for him. My in-laws were also nice people, and we often had meals and went shopping together even when my husband was not around. I think we had a very good relationship with both my in-laws and my husband before we got married. However, my husband completely changed after we got married. He often came home late, and we couldn't have a decent conversation. He never apologized or explained why he was late or why he didn't contact me. I had to cook dinner every day and wait for him, not knowing if he would come home or eat outside. But when he did come home, he would complain about the food I had prepared or just ignored me. Since I was always criticized, I was always on edge while doing household chores. At first, I was just bewildered, but after several weeks of this, anger began to well up inside me. Why? Why would you do something like this? Don't you know I have taken the time and effort to make those dishes?
Shut up. The ingredients were bought with my money, so it's my right.
Despite my numerous protests, my husband continued to act this way.
It's my money, my contribution. Don't act all high and mighty when you don't even work.
He would constantly throw such words at me. Before I knew it, our conversations as a couple had almost disappeared, and every time we met, my husband would insult me.
Hey, Henry, did I do something? Can you tell me why you were acting like this?
Even if I asked, my husband would just ignore me. The living room was filled with a heavy and dark atmosphere that I didn't feel like newlywed. What happened to my once kind-hearted husband in such a short period of time? Even though I became a housewife at his request, I had no idea what caused my husband to change so drastically. I was exhausted from such days with my husband, and the idea of divorce had crossed my mind several times. I thought about consulting with my parents and in-laws, but I couldn't bring myself to do it, because I thought the problem might be my fault as well. I also thought that it wasn't appropriate to talk about problems between couples to our parents. Thinking that way, I couldn't talk to anyone. Besides, when I recalled the peaceful and happy days with my husband before we got married, I couldn't bring myself to divorce him. As I continued to struggle with myself, my husband continued to throw me insults. Feeling at my wits' end with such days, I began to only do the bare minimum of housework during the day and shut myself up in my room to avoid seeing my husband. I thought about going back to my parents' house, but since I had married late, I couldn't bring myself to embarrass my parents. Then, one day, I received a call from the hospital. It was to inform me that my parents had been in a traffic accident and had been taken to the hospital. I hurried to the hospital, and there were my parents, who were wearing bandages and looked painful. According to the doctor, their injuries were not life-threatening, but they would have difficulty with their daily activities for a while. Although it wasn't bad enough for a long hospitalization, both of them seemed to have hit their head. Since they had injured their legs as well, it would be better if someone in the family could take care of them. The doctors also said that if my parents wished, they could receive physical therapy at the hospital. However, I respected my parents' opinion of wanting to spend their recovery time at home instead of an unfamiliar hospital. As a result, it was decided that I would accompany them and take care of them at home. Since I had rushed out of the house when I received the call, I went home to pick up my things to stay at my parents' house. I packed the bare minimum of clothes and necessities into a carry-on bag. It seems that my husband was puzzled by my hasty departure, so he came to peek into my room. When I explained the situation to him, that I would be leaving home for a while, he said,
Are you saying that you'll be taking care of your parents instead of doing housework? There is no serious health problem, is there? You are a full-time homemaker.
And now you're giving up your only job? My husband seems completely uninterested in my desire to be with my parents. I was so sad and frustrating that my husband belittles my parents. I felt like I had reached the limit of my current lifestyle, and maybe something could change if I separated from him. Anyway, I don't think I can come back for a while. See ya. I said that and headed to the hospital, ignoring my husband's insults. Although my parents had to be hospitalized for examination, they were lucky enough to be discharged in a few days because they were otherwise healthy. Few weeks passed since the accident. Then one day, while I was continuing to take care of my parents at home, I received a call from my cousin. She said she could come and help during her long vacation from work. With my cousin's help, I returned home earlier than planned. Since my parents were good friends with my in-laws, it became a daily routine to report my parents' well-being to my mother-in-law while I was at my parents' house. I walked home while talking to my mother-in-law on the phone. I was a little nervous about when was the last time I had a proper conversation with my husband. If we could return to the relationship we had before we got married, by physically living apart, that would be great. I opened the front door with such a faint hope in mind. However, what I found at the entrance froze me. It was a pair of women's bright red high heel. It was definitely not mine or my mother-in-law's. And the situation continued to worsen for me. I could hear a man and a woman's voice coming from the bathroom at the end of the hallway. The woman's moaning voice pierced my ears as it passed through the hallway and reached me at the entrance. Along with the feeling of sadness, there was also a sense of resignation that this was bound to happen. However, when I remembered the days when I was ridiculed and insulted by my husband, I couldn't help but feel angry at the current situation. I marched towards the bathroom in anger. I grabbed the clothes of the two people I found in the dressing room and threw them into the hallway. Then I opened the bathroom door with a bang. Inside, my husband and the woman were embracing each other while naked. My husband made eye contact with me when he noticed me, but he didn't even try to pretend and continue what he was doing. I could hear the sound of my own blood vessels bursting with anger at the sight. "What the heck are you doing?" A loud voice echoed through the bathroom, but the two were still hugging each other and grinning at me. In addition to my husband's attitude toward me since we got married, this was too much. At the moment, there was not a trace of love left in me for my husband. Unable to bear it anymore, I shouted even louder. "Enough! I want a divorce right now!" Then my husband just laughed and said, "Divorce? You're unemployed and can't live without me. So how do you plan to survive? You're the one in trouble here. Just keep doing the housework as usual, and I'll let you stay here. But don't expect me to be your night partner." I felt my shoulders shaking with his words. Then, the woman he was having an affair with looked down on me and snickered. The two of them laughed and breathed heavily, filling the bathroom with their mockery. At that moment, someone's voice echoed through the bathroom. "Do you even know what you're saying? What a stupid son you are! I can't believe it!" It was my mother-in-law. She was furious. Surprised by her anger, my husband and his mistress froze in their tracks. Only I knew where this voice was coming from. "Huh, you didn't notice, did you? I was on the phone with your mother the whole time." Yes, the call I made to my mother-in-law on my way back from my parents' house was still ongoing. My mother-in-law, who apparently realized that something was wrong from my voice, was scolding my husband through the screen. The sight of the two of them panicking and flustered while naked was quite comical. Having had enough, I decided to enjoy this situation to the fullest. "Well, Your mother may not even know what's going on. So I'm going to switch to video chat now, I said, operating my smartphone in my right hand to switch to video chat. Then I aimed the camera at my husband and his mistress and started broadcasting the whole thing. So I just got home from my parents' house. Then I heard a strange voice coming from the bathroom. So I went to check it out and found this situation. I was so surprised because my husband and his mistress were getting along so well, you know? Well, now they're taken aback by the sudden appearance of the camera and seems to lose their mood. Oh, are you too embarrassed? Oh, well, he began to looking for his clothes now. But there are no clothes left in the dressing room. Where could they be?
Margaret, what are you doing? Stop the camera. Do you think you can get away with this?
What? You're the one who can't get away with this. Cheating is illegal in this state, you know?
Don't mess with me.
I think it's you who's messing around here. My husband was panicking as I spoke while suppressing my laughter, and my mother-in-law was furious at her son's misconduct. The mistress was crying and looking for her clothes in a state of confusion. My father-in-law, who apparently heard his wife scream through the call screen, also joined in and yelled at his son along with his wife.
What have you done to the family who saved our company? What? Saved our company? What are you talking about, Dad?
You didn't know, did you? Then I explained to my confused husband a story. The story is about when my in-laws' family business was in trouble in the past. My father was the one who helped them financially and got them out of trouble. I asked both parents not to explain the circumstances to my husband when we were to meet for the matchmaking. I didn't want my husband to feel like he owed us something, and I wanted to establish a fair relationship. His parents had only introduced him to the daughter of an acquaintance from work. Now that the truth was revealed, my husband's face turned pale.
If I had known, I wouldn't have done this. Why didn't you tell me earlier?
What? So you're saying you behave differently depending on the other person's position? I knew it. I knew you were that kind of human being.
You. How despicable.
Seeing my husband's shoulders shake at his father's words, I came to a conclusion. The reason he made me a housewife was his strategy to establish dominance. I was just the one who did all the housework and acted as his punching bag for his stress. It wasn't because of something I did or because his feelings changed. He's always been this disappointing human being. Suddenly, all the days of my patience and anger seemed foolish, and I felt like laughing. I'm glad I never told you. I'm glad I never told the truth before, you know. Because now I can see your true nature clearly. I wonder if your affair partner really thinks there's something good about a man like you? As I speak, I hold up the face of the affair partner to the camera. Then my mother-in-law yelled loudly,
You! I thought I'd seen you before.
You're one of our employees, aren't you?
What on earth have you two been doing together?
Then, my father-in-law's loud sigh of disappointment can be heard through the speaker, as they seem to be at their wits' end.
You two. Don't think you're getting off that easy. You're going to take responsibility for this. Be prepared.
While my husband drops to his knees in shock and the affair partner starts to cry, I smile and say, So, I guess this means we're getting a divorce. Then I said to my in-laws, I'm sorry for this, suddenly causing you both so much trouble. I'll contact you again later to talk about this. After that, my husband and I officially got divorced. It turns out that the affair between my husband and his affair partner had been going on since before our marriage. Just a little bit of research brought forth a mountain of evidence that made my husband's foolishness pitiable. I have no intention of forgiving the affair partner who had looked down on me and laughed. I demanded compensation from both of my husband and her. Although my husband mutters excuses, there was no denying the evidence. So he signed all the divorce agreements I presented. My in-laws sided completely with me during our divorce. My husband was disowned by his family, and talk of him being their successor was abandoned, of course. I heard that the affair partner was also fired from her job. They will have a hard time scraping together the compensation for me, but that is of no concern to me. However, this incident became the trigger for my husband and his lover to break up soon after the divorce. And as a result of my divorce from my husband, a turning point came in my life. As there was no real successor, my ex-parents-in-law approached me with a job offer. Before getting married, I had worked in the same industry and had been entrusted with the position of branch manager at a different company. My ex-parents-in-law were aware of this and seemed to think that there was no one else but me to succeed them. As I had been thinking about finding a job after the divorce, this was a very welcome offer. Although I needed some time to study and refresh my knowledge due to the gap in my employment history, they provided me with a position as assistant to the president. I'm determined to live up to their expectations. By the way, Henry contacted me for help, probably because he heard about I was to take over his family business. I have a job and can do household chores by myself, so I don't think I need to be with someone unemployed, do I? So, goodbye. I answered like that and hung up the phone. Since then, I hadn't heard from him. I ended up returning to my parents' home, and without any after effects from the accident, my parents are on the road to recovery. I continue to have a good relationship with my ex-in-laws as a business partner now. After separating from my husband, who threatened my dignity, the people who remained with me were those who treated me well. To maintain a fulfilling daily life, I vowed to cherish every day and live with the happiness I have now.
My son's wife was being very rude and cold to me, which made me detest her. Then I found out the truth.
My name is Bethany. I've been married once, but because of my husband's infidelity and money troubles, it didn't last long and ended in divorce. Since then, I've been living as a single mother to my 2 sons. Although it was tough, I have ultimately become successful. I've never hated studying since I was a child. I particularly loved science experiments starting from the elementary school and still look back at them fondly. During university, I became close with a male classmate and we started dating. After graduation, I started working as a cosmetics development researcher at a major cosmetics company. My relationship with him continued, but I really enjoyed my job. After I started working, we didn't see each other as often after that. You seem busy with work, but I was wondering, can we spend more time together? Sorry, I tend to get absorbed in my work. I'll try to be more careful. We're both working now. Let's get married. Then, if you're ever busy with work, we can see each other every day. So I responded to him. All right. With these words from him, we decided to get married without further notice. I was dating him because I liked him and had no reason to refuse. And then we had our baby. When I found out I was pregnant, I was really happy, and it was the first time I forgot about my research. I decided to quit my job completely. I didn't have any hesitation about it at that time. Our eldest son Tim was born, and 2 years later, our younger son Paul was born. I was very busy with childcare and housework every day, and that was all I could handle. I didn't notice anything unusual about my husband, but
It turned out he had been laid off from his company for several months and secretly borrowed my money, gave me part of it for our living expenses, and used up the rest of it for gambling. I didn't notice his fake facade of going to work every day in the morning as usual. One day, a collection letter arrived at our home, and the truth was revealed. I added some money from my savings to help with the debt repayment and decided to get a divorce. Although we could have still made it work regarding the money, as I researched the debt, evidence of his frequent infidelity was revealed in his phone messages. I was fed up with this and asked for a divorce. He agreed to the divorce without protesting, and then I was left taking care of my 2 sons alone. It wasn't easy. Why don't you bring Tim and Paul here? Let's live together. I appreciate you saying that, but if we did, our neighbors would start spreading rumors about our divorce and it would cause trouble for the boys. I'll be okay. You don't have to worry about that. If there's anything I can do to help, just let me know. Thank you, Mom. Having someone who worried about me like that became my greatest motivation. Also, I was able to work again at the place I worked before getting married, and during the day, I left my sons at a nursery. In the midst of such a new life, I suddenly had an idea. I suddenly remembered the sensation of when I got to work as a researcher of basic cosmetics that were both time efficient and gentle on the skin. Once I felt like this, as someone who originally loved research, I found myself excitedly diving into my work every day. Then, the cleansing cream that I made became a hugely popular product, and it became well known worldwide. My life changed completely from that. But from a married life that was already difficult enough with childcare and housework, I had work and research added to it from a divorce. On my days off, I played with my sons with all my might. I had no time to rest. By the time my children were a little older, I had done a lot of research, and what I had created, starting with the cleansing and mainly basic cosmetics, naturally permeated the world. I was generating huge sales, my responsibilities increased, and my income far exceeded that of ordinary male office workers. Thanks to that, I was able to send my kids to university without inconveniencing them or borrowing anyone's help. My eldest son, Tim, supported my work, and I believe that he will surely inherit my passion for work in the future. Paul, on the other hand, rebelled against his obedient older brother and me. When he was a little boy, he always followed his brother and was often taken care of by Tim, but before long that stopped happening, and on the contrary, Paul seems to be walking away down the same path as his older brother, Tim. Starting with club activities and lessons, fashion and car preferences, the two of them started to choose opposite paths. After graduating from university, Paul took a leave of absence from work in a completely unrelated field. Just give me the capital, and I'll definitely make it a success. You're being too naive. Running a company isn't that easy. If you want me to invest, bring a convincing business plan. Alright, I'll bring it right away. I read through the plan he brought, and while the content was new and interesting, it was nothing more than a child's writing. Even so, as a mother, I had the desire to support him, so I'd had him make revisions to the business plan, and I approved the investment. He started the company. I watched him for a while, but in the end, he had no experience, no history, and no connections. As I had imagined, things did not go quite smoothly at first, but despite my worries, Paul suddenly got married. Paul's wife, Carol, is 3 years younger than him at 23 years old. With his young age and his title as the company president, and not to mention his good looks, it was only natural for a few girls to come after him. Although it may sound biased coming from his mother, Paul has a good personality, is friendly and sociable, and can get along with anyone. Even without much experience or skill, he'll probably be able to get to work with just his personality. That's what I thought, at least. As the young couple started their married life, I was worried, so I would secretly give Paul some money when we met, or invite the two of them to dinner and do what I could to help. They were initially living in an apartment, but one day Paul came to see me with a request. I want to buy a house, but the business isn't that great right now and I can't get a decent loan from a bank. can you buy a house for me in your name without telling Carol? I'll make sure to pay the monthly payments. Even now, I think I'm contributing enough to both of your household and business. I know, the business will definitely pick up from here on, but I don't want to bring up that with Carol. Please, Mom. Unable to resist his persuasion, I bought a new house for the two of them to live in. Carol is a housewife and basically spends her days at home. Whenever I passed by, I would stop by and give her gifts or cakes or fruits. Thank you for always bringing us things, Bethany. I'll have them when Paul comes home. Whenever I went unannounced, I would always see her in her pajamas with no makeup on, and I couldn't help but feel unpleasant. If she was just being lazy, she could get a part-time job or something. Since they didn't have any children yet, she could easily work. That's what I thought to myself. When I think back on the hardships I faced, I can't help but feel the way when I see a woman like her, and yet I know I'll still come back to their house despite feeling this way. However, I'm sure that she could use some sense from these feelings from me. One day, Paul said something like this to me. Mom, don't ever come to our house too often during the day. If you have something to give us, just come to my office. Why? Did Carol say something to you? Carol is still young and doesn't have much experience dealing with in-laws, so it seems to tire her out. Tire her out? I'm just giving her stuff at the front door. I'm not even going in the house. That's kind of rude of her to say. I knew there was no point of saying anything to Paul, who was caught in between us. She spends every day sitting around without even working, you know. Maybe you haven't said anything to her yet, but your business is in trouble right now. Why don't you go ask her to help out a little? I know. And you haven't been paying attention to the mortgage either. When the business picks up, I'll pay it all at once, so wait. Anyone would have given up already if they saw how his business was doing. Apparently, his personality wasn't good enough for the business to succeed. Still, he wanted to maintain a good image in front of his wife. As things were, Paul must have felt like he was going to lose both his business and his wife. You should seriously think about your business. I can't keep investing anymore. I know. Actually, there was something I haven't been able to tell you. What is it? Carol is pregnant. As they were married, it was certainly good news. I knew I had to congratulate them, but I wasn't convinced. I avoided going to Paul's house or office for a while, and when Carol started her second trimester, Paul invited me to dinner. Carol is feeling better now, and I was able to make a deal at work. She'll prepare the food, so why don't you and Tim come over for dinner? I'll pass. Things will feel weird if we keep avoiding each other, you know? Please? Fine. On the day of the dinner, I prepared a gift and went to Paul's house with Tim. To be honest, I wasn't in the mood at all, but I tried to switch my feelings and motivate myself. Good evening, thank you for inviting us. It must have been hard preparing everything alone. What? What are you talking about? From Carol's reaction, I immediately knew that Paul hadn't told her about today's dinner. Isn't Paul back yet? We came because he invited us. I haven't heard anything about dinner, and you can't just come over like this. Pregnant women are emotionally unstable. Please don't give me any more stress. Don't ever come here again. Tim and I stood frozen, unable to find words to respond. We were there because we were invited, and we were suddenly told not to come again? I'm sorry, I'm late. What's wrong? Paul, did you forget to tell Carol about today? Sorry, I was busy. I may have forgotten to tell her. You need to get your act together. Stop messing with everyone and be more responsible. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry, Carol. We're leaving now, so rest up. Don't worry, we won't come back here again. I went to my office and asked the legal advisor to change all the names on the house loan I'd purchased under Paul's name. I thought to myself that things couldn't go on like this and I need to make things right. A few days later, Paul rushed over to my place with Carol. Mom, why is the house loan addressed to me? It's for your house, isn't it? So of course it's addressed to you. You can't just do that. That's not fair. You know about my business, right? Don't rely on your mother forever. You have a wife and a child too. I'll be there to support you, but you two have to work hard together. If you keep doing things like this secretly, of course Carol is going to feel bad. If you have any requests in the future, please come to my office and make them formally. Bethany, I'm really sorry about the other day. Paul never tells me anything. On the night when I said such terrible things to you, I questioned him about it and learned a lot. I was spoiling him because he's my son. I'm sorry about that. When Paul bought their house, he saw his mother secretly, and he never brought Carol along for any of the procedures. He also never told her anything about the company's financial situation and let her manage the household finances. She didn't understand what was really going on. She wasn't a bad person. She just felt like she was being left out. Now that she knows the truth, she apologized for her terrible comments and said that she would cooperate with him from now on. Paul, couples should share their hardships during difficult times, just like Carol said. Okay? I had a similar experience when I divorced your father, so I don't want you two to end up like that. Work together and help each other out. Before coming here, Paul and Carol had discussed things as she had explained in detail to me. From now on, Carol will manage the household finances and will be responsible for the company's accounting until the baby is born. As it turned out, she had studied business administration at university and was capable of doing the accounting work with ease. I felt embarrassed for judging her as young and irresponsible just based on appearance. Her explanation was easy to understand and concise, and I could feel her competence to the extent that I wanted to recruit her for our company. I even thought that Paul's business could be revived by her efforts. Bethany, I think it will take some time for us to get back on track. I will also work hard to bring things into good shape. Is it okay for me to come to you for advice when we're in trouble? Of course, anything for you, Carol. Thank you very much for forgiving me. After this day, Carol and I became very close, to the extent of having tea or lunch together or even going shopping. Both Carol and I were surprised by how well we got along. We haven't been involved with each other much before, but in reality, we had a lot in common. I enjoyed it as I had a daughter. Maybe it was because we had taken a roundabout way, had disputes and arguments, that we became like this. If I think about it that way, I'm grateful to Paul as well. Eventually, Carol began to help Paul's business, and it was revived thanks to her knowledge and talent. Paul no longer needed to put up a front, and whenever he had problems, he would talk to Carol first. Things were moving in a positive direction. Meanwhile, Carol's belly grew bigger, and she finally gave birth. The twin boys were born safely, and they were healthy. Our house became even more lively. Now I'm looking forward to seeing Logan find someone nice. Although I had no luck in marriage, I felt blessed with my family and work, and now I can look back and savor happiness.